The midnight arrival. The storm arrived without warning, as storms often did in Greywater Hollow. Theo Ashford had learned to love these violent autumn nights, the way the wind howled through the narrow streets, the way the fog rolled in from the sea like a living thing. Inside his cottage, surrounded by the familiar smell of leather and glue and old paper, he felt safe from the world's chaos. He was working on a delicate binding, gold leaf pressed carefully into worn leather, when he heard the sound. At first, he thought it was just the wind, but then it came again, a soft thud against his door, followed by silence. Theo set down his tools and crossed the small room. When he opened the door, the rain immediately soaked his shirt. At his feet, half collapsed against the stone step, was a woman. She looked up at him with eyes that seemed to hold both the storm and the stars. Her dark hair clung to her face in wet strands, and she was shivering so violently he could see it even in the dim porch light. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain. "Just for tonight." Something in him shifted, a protective instinct he hadn't felt in years. Without hesitation, Theo crouched down and helped her to her feet. She was lighter than he expected, as though she might float away if he let go. "Come inside," he said gently, guiding her through the doorway. Once she was settled near the fireplace, wrapped in his warmest blanket, Theo made tea. She accepted the cup with trembling hands, and he noticed the way her fingers curled around the warmth as though it were the most precious thing in the world. "I'm Myra," she said after a long silence. "Myra Solon."
Theo Ashford.
He sat across from her, studying her face in the firelight. There was something familiar about her, though he was certain they'd never met. "What were you doing out there?" "Walking," she said simply. Then, after a pause, "Running, maybe. I'm not sure anymore." She didn't elaborate, and Theo didn't push. Instead, they sat in comfortable silence, listening to the fire crackle and the rain drum against the windows. Hours passed. They talked in fragments, about books, about the sea, about loneliness. When dawn began to break, painting the sky in shades of grey and gold, Myra's eyes finally started to close. "Just one night," she murmured, half asleep. "I promise." But as Theo watched her drift off, something deep in his chest whispered that nothing would ever be the same again. The morning she stayed. Theo woke to the smell of fresh bread and brewing coffee, scents that had no place in his solitary cottage. For a moment, disoriented by sleep, he thought he'd dreamed the entire night. But then he heard humming, soft and melodic, drifting from his kitchen. He found Myra standing at his stove, her hair still damp but tied back loosely, wearing one of his old sweaters that hung to her knees. She'd somehow managed to bake bread using his meager supplies, and the kitchen table was set with 2 cups, 2 plates, and a jar of wildflowers she must have picked from his overgrown garden. "Good morning," she said, turning to him with a smile that made his chest tighten. "I hope you don't mind. I wanted to thank you." Theo stood in the doorway, uncertain. "You didn't have to do all this." "I know." She poured coffee into both cups. "But I wanted to." They ate breakfast together, and Theo found himself watching her more than eating. The way she savored each bite, the way sunlight caught in her eyes when she laughed at something he said, it all felt surreal, like a scene from someone else's life. After they finished, he noticed her bag still sitting by the door, unpacked. He cleared his throat. "Myra, you said just one night." Her smile faltered. She looked down at her hands. "I know what I said. Do you have somewhere to go?" The silence that followed was answer enough. When she finally looked up, her eyes were glistening. "No. I don't have anywhere. Or anyone." She stood quickly, as if preparing to leave despite her admission. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have assumed." "Wait." The word left Theo's mouth before he could think. She froze. "Stay. Just a few more days. Until you figure things out." Relief washed over her face so completely that Theo knew he'd made the right choice, even if he didn't understand why it mattered so much. That afternoon, while Theo worked in his bindery, Myra wandered through his cottage, exploring with gentle curiosity. She found his collection of unfinished sketches and began organizing them, her artistic eye seeing patterns he'd missed. When he looked up from his work, he found her sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by papers, utterly absorbed. "You're talented," she said without looking up. "These drawings, they're beautiful. They're nothing. Just idle thoughts." "They're everything," she corrected, meeting his gaze. "They're pieces of who you are." Evening fell softly over Greywater Hollow. They made dinner together in the small kitchen, moving around each other with surprising ease. When their hands brushed reaching for the same knife, neither pulled away immediately. The touch lingered, warm and electric. After dinner, they worked side by side, Theo binding a restored novel, Myra sketching illustrations in the margins of his notebook. Rain began again, gentle this time, tapping against the windows like a lullaby. "Theo." Myra's voice was quiet. "Yes. Thank you for not asking questions. For just letting me be here." He set down his tools and looked at her fully. "Everyone deserves a place where they can just be." She smiled, but there was sadness in it. "Not everyone believes that." He wanted to ask what she meant, wanted to understand the shadows that sometimes crossed her face. But instead, he simply reached out and covered her hand with his. She turned her palm up, threading her fingers through his, and they sat that way until the candles burned low. The deepening bond. 3 weeks passed like a dream. Myra became part of Theo's life so naturally that he sometimes forgot there was ever a time before her. She'd taken over the small guest room, filling it with sketches and books borrowed from his collection. But most nights, they stayed up late in the main room, talking until exhaustion claimed them both. Autumn deepened around Greywater Hollow. The trees turned copper and gold, and the sea grew wilder, crashing against the cliffs with increasing fury. Theo and Myra developed rituals: morning coffee on the porch, afternoon walks along the coastal path, evenings spent creating side by side. One afternoon, they ventured farther than usual, following the cliff path to a stretch of beach Theo rarely visited. The wind was strong, tangling Myra's hair and making her laugh as she chased it. Theo found himself mesmerized by her joy, by the way she seemed to come alive in the wild weather. "Tell me something true," she said suddenly, turning to face him. The sea crashed behind her, white foam against dark rocks. "What do you mean?" "Something you've never told anyone else. Something real." Theo considered, then spoke quietly. "I moved here after my engagement ended. She said I was too quiet, too content with small things. That I'd never be enough." He paused. "I believed her. I still do, sometimes." Myra stepped closer, her expression fierce. "She was wrong. You're not too quiet, you're thoughtful. You're not too content, you're grateful. Those are rare and beautiful things, Theo." The way she said his name made something crack open in his chest. Without thinking, he reached up and brushed a strand of hair from her face. Her breath caught. "Myra." Thunder rolled across the sky, and rain began to fall in heavy sheets. They were instantly soaked, but neither moved. Then Myra grabbed his hand. "There's a lighthouse," she shouted over the rain. "Come on." They ran together across the beach, laughing breathlessly, until they reached the abandoned lighthouse Theo had forgotten existed. The door gave way easily, and they stumbled inside, dripping and gasping. The space was small, dusty, filled with old equipment and the smell of salt. But it was dry, and suddenly they were alone in a way they'd never been before. The rain hammered against the stone walls, and Theo became acutely aware of how close Myra stood, how her wet clothes clung to her, how her eyes seemed luminous in the dim light. "We should," he started, but she cut him off. "Theo, please stop being so careful with me." "I don't want to." "I know. But I need you to understand something." She stepped closer, until he could feel the warmth radiating from her despite the cold. "Being here with you, these weeks, they've been the first time I've felt like myself in longer than I can remember. The first time I felt safe. Real. Seen." His hand came up to cup her face almost involuntarily. "I see you. I see all of you." "Do you?" Her voice was whisper soft. "Even the broken parts. Especially those." Myra rose onto her toes and kissed him. It was tentative at first, questioning, but when Theo pulled her closer, responding with a hunger he hadn't known he possessed. She melted against him. The kiss deepened, became desperate. His hands tangled in her wet hair, her fingers gripped his shirt as though she might fall without it. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Myra's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I can't promise I'll never leave," she whispered against his lips. "Then promise you'll stay as long as you can." "I promise." They kissed again, softer this time, and held each other as the storm raged outside their small sanctuary. The secret unveiled. The weeks following their kiss in the lighthouse were the happiest Theo had known. Myra moved through his life like sunlight through fog, illuminating corners he'd forgotten existed. They fell into a rhythm of domesticity that felt both natural and profound, shared meals, intertwined routines, and nights that often ended with them curled together on his worn sofa, her head resting on his chest as he read aloud. But Theo began to notice things. Small things at first. The way Myra never checked her phone, never mentioned family or friends. How she avoided the village center, always finding excuses when he suggested they shop together or visit the cafe. The way she sometimes stared at the sea with an expression of such profound longing it made his heart ache. She never stood in front of mirrors. When mail arrived, she'd leave the room. And sometimes, late at night when she thought he was asleep, he'd hear her crying softly in her room. One evening, as they prepared dinner together, Theo watched her hands tremble while chopping vegetables. She'd been quieter than usual all day, distant in a way that made him feel like she was already leaving. "Myra," he said gently, setting down his knife. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." But her voice cracked on the word. "Please. Talk to me." He moved closer, turning her to face him. "You're here, but you're not really here. Not today. What's going on?" She pulled away, wrapping her arms around herself. "I can't." "Can't or won't?" "Both." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Theo, if I tell you, everything changes. You'll look at me differently. You'll want me to leave." "That's not true." "You don't know that." Her voice rose, desperate. "You don't know what I've done, where I came from, why I can't." She stopped, pressing her hands to her face. Theo's heart pounded. "Then tell me. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." "You don't understand. There's someone," she choked on the words. "Someone I ran from. Someone dangerous. I thought I could outrun him, but I can't. And being here with you, being happy, it feels like a lie because I know it can't last." He reached for her hands, pulling them gently from her face. "Who hurt you, Myra?" She looked at him with such raw pain that he wanted to gather her up and protect her from the entire world. "His name is Marcus Thorne. We were together for 3 years. At first, he was everything I thought I wanted. Charming, successful, attentive. But slowly, so slowly I didn't notice until it was too late, he became something else." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "He controlled everything. What I wore, who I spoke to, where I went. He said it was because he loved me, because I needed guidance. When I tried to leave the first time, he found me within hours. Said I was being dramatic, that I was nothing without him. That no one else would ever want someone as broken as me." Theo's jaw clenched, rage building in his chest. "Myra." "It got worse." He started, she faltered, then continued. "He'd grab my wrists too hard, push me against walls when he was angry. Always where bruises wouldn't show. Always followed by apologies and gifts and promises to change. I believed him. Over and over, I believed him." She pulled up her sleeve, revealing faint scars on her forearm, thin, deliberate lines. "These are from the night I finally decided to leave. He found me packing, and her voice broke completely. He said if I left, he'd make sure I regretted it. That he'd find me wherever I went. That I belonged to him." Theo pulled her into his arms, holding her as she sobbed against his chest. "You're safe now. I promise you're safe." "But I'm not," she cried. "He has resources, connections. He's probably looking for me right now. I've been using a different name, paying only in cash, avoiding cameras. But eventually, He'll find me. He always does. And when he does, he'll have to go through me first. She pulled back, searching his face. Theo, you don't know what he's capable of. And he doesn't know what I'm capable of. Theo cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. You are not broken, Myra. You are not worthless. You are strong and brave and beautiful, and what he did to you, that's on him, not you. Do you understand? I'm so scared, she whispered. I know. But you're not alone anymore. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips, gentle affirmations of everything he couldn't quite put into words. Stay. Please stay. Let me help you. We'll figure this out together. You really want me here? Even knowing all of this? Especially knowing all of this. He held her tighter. You think this changes how I feel about you? Myra, I was half in love with you that first night. By the second week, I was completely gone. Learning what you've survived, it only makes me love you more. She kissed him then, desperate and grateful and terrified all at once. They held each other in the kitchen as darkness fell outside, two broken people finding wholeness in each other's arms. Later, as they lay together on the sofa, her head on his chest and his fingers running through her hair, Myra spoke quietly. There's one more thing. Tell me. The reason I came to Greywater Hollow specifically, I saw a photo of this village years ago, before Marcus. It looked like a place where someone could disappear. Where someone could start over. She tilted her head to look up at him. I never imagined I'd find you here. That I'd find home. Theo kissed the top of her head. You're not disappearing, Myra. You're being found. By me. By yourself. And this time, you get to decide what happens next. She intertwined her fingers with his, holding on like he was her anchor in a storm. And perhaps he was. Perhaps they both were, two lost souls who'd found each other in the fog. The choice to stay. The peace lasted exactly 9 days. 9 days of Myra slowly relaxing, of laughter returning to her eyes, of plans tentatively made for a future that felt almost possible. Then Marcus Thorne came to Greywater Hollow. Theo was in his workshop when Myra burst through the door, her face chalk white. He's here. Theo, he's here. His blood ran cold. Where? In the village. I saw his car at the inn. He's asking about me. I heard from Mrs. Hollis at the market. She didn't know who he meant, but it's only a matter of time. Theo stood, his mind racing. Okay. It's okay. You're not going anywhere with him. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. He took her hands, steady despite the fear coursing through him. This is your home now. He doesn't get to take that from you. A knock at the door made them both freeze. 3 sharp raps, authoritative and demanding. Myra, I know you're in there. The voice was smooth, cultured, with an edge like broken glass. We need to talk. Theo squeezed her hands once, then walked to the door. He opened it to find a man in an expensive coat, with perfectly styled hair and cold eyes that assessed him like an opponent. Can I help you? Theo kept his voice level. Marcus Thorne. He extended a hand that Theo didn't take. The smile that followed was dangerous. I'm here for my girlfriend. There seems to have been a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding. Myra doesn't want to see you. Myra. Marcus's laugh was condescending. Is that what she's calling herself now? Her name is Melissa Thorne. She's my wife, and she's sick. She does this sometimes, runs off, forgets who she is. I'm here to bring her home where she can get help. Theo's jaw tightened. She's not going anywhere. I don't think you understand the situation. Marcus's voice dropped, became threatening. This is a family matter. You're interfering with. I understand perfectly. Myra's voice cut through the tension. She stepped into view beside Theo, and though he could feel her trembling, her voice was steady. I'm not your wife. I'm not sick. And I'm not going anywhere with you. Marcus's expression shifted, became almost gentle, a manipulation Theo recognized instantly. "Sweetheart, you're confused. Look at you, you're shaking. Let me take you home where you're safe." "I am home." Myra moved closer to Theo. "And I am safe. For the first time in years, I'm actually safe." The gentleness vanished from Marcus's face, replaced by cold fury. "You think this nobody can protect you? You think hiding in this pathetic village changes anything? You're mine, Melissa. You'll always be mine." "My name is Myra Solon," she said, her voice growing stronger. "And I stopped being yours the night I walked out of your house. You don't own me. You never did." Marcus took a step forward, but Theo moved to block him. "She's told you her answer. Now leave." "Or what?" Marcus's smile was vicious. "You'll fight me? Call the police. Tell them what? That I'm here to collect my disturbed girlfriend? I have witnesses who'll testify to her mental instability. I have medical records." "Records you forced her to create," Theo said quietly. "Witnesses you manipulated. But none of that matters, because she's made her choice. This isn't over." "Yes, it is." Myra's voice rang out clear and firm. "I'm done running from you, Marcus. I'm done letting you make me feel small and broken and worthless. You were right about one thing, I was broken. But not because of anything wrong with me. Because of what you did to me. And I'm not broken anymore." She stepped fully into the doorway, standing tall. "If you come near me again, I will file a restraining order. I will press charges for assault. I will tell everyone what you really are. And I have evidence, photos, recordings, witnesses who saw what you did. I kept them all." It was a bluff, Theo could tell from the slight catch in her voice, but Marcus didn't know that. His face contorted with rage. "You're making a mistake." "No," Myra said softly. "Staying with you was the mistake. This," she reached for Theo's hand, "this is the first right choice I've made in years." For a long moment, Marcus stared at them both. Then, with visible effort, he composed himself. "Fine. Waste your life with this nobody in this nowhere town. But when you come crawling back, and you will, don't expect me to be waiting." "I won't be coming back." Marcus turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing on the cobblestones. They watched until he disappeared around the corner, then Myra's legs gave out. Theo caught her, holding her as she shook with the aftermath of adrenaline and fear. "It's over," he murmured into her hair. "He's gone. What if he comes back? Then we deal with it. Together." He pulled back to look at her. "Myra, I meant what I said. This is your home. I'm not letting you go." She kissed him, fierce and grateful, pouring everything she couldn't say into the contact. When they broke apart, both were crying. "I love you," she whispered. "I don't know if I'm supposed to say that yet, but I do. I love you, Theo Ashford." "I love you too." He kissed her again, softer this time. "Stay. Not just for tonight. Not just until you figure things out. Stay because you want to. Because this is where you belong." "Are you sure? Even with all the mess I bring?" "Especially with the mess." He smiled through his tears. "You make my quiet life extraordinary." 2 days later, they stood together on the cliffs where Theo had first found her, watching the sunrise paint the sea in shades of gold and rose. Myra leaned against him, his arms wrapped around her from behind. "Do you think he'll really leave us alone?" she asked quietly. "I think he's a coward who only has power when someone gives it to him. You stopped giving him power. That's what really defeated him." She turned in his arms to face him. "I couldn't have done it without you." "You could have. But I'm glad you didn't have to." They stood there as the sun climbed higher, burning away the morning fog, revealing the village spread below them, their village now, their home. The past would always be there, but it didn't own them anymore. They owned their future, together. "Theo." "Yes." "Thank you for opening your door that night. For letting me stay." He kissed her forehead. Thank you for knocking. For refusing to leave. For choosing me. Always, she whispered. I'll always choose you. And in that moment, with the sea crashing below and the sun warming their faces, both of them finally understood what home truly meant. Not a place, but a person. Not shelter from the storm, but someone to stand beside you in it. Myra Solon had come to Greywater Hollow looking for somewhere to hide. Instead, she'd found somewhere to live. And Theo Ashford, who'd spent years believing he'd never be enough, had discovered that for the right person, he was everything. The stranger who wouldn't leave had become the love who would stay forever. The end.